There's a television advertisement in Australia. It's an old one, and it goes like this. The guy's talking about motor oils, and he's saying oils ain't oils. And essentially what he's saying is the more refined an oil is, the better it is for your car. Well, it's the exact opposite for the human body. The more refined it is, the less good it is for the human body and definitely the planet. And the less refined, so the more natural it is, the better it is for you. So using that logic, obviously the oils that are intact in whole unprocessed foods are the best oils for your body. Given though that we are an oil society and we eat lots of oils, there's so much confusion around it. And I get asked this question a lot about how do you find a good oil? How do you know what a good oil is? And why is it that these oils that you see on the supermarket shelf in these clear glass bottles are so bad for you? So what I'm going to share with you today is the Nature's Principle, Return to Food, and Sweet Freedom take on oils and how to get them and what to look for. So the first thing I love to share with people is some information that I learned from Udo Erasmus's book, Fats That Harm, Fats That Kill, or Fats That Heal, which was written in 1993. So Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. Really important. And I found out that most oils are actually made this way. So they are first, they're cooked. The seeds or nuts or whatever they're using is cooked, and then they're formed into a cake. Then it goes through a process of solvent extraction where heptane and hexane, which is gasoline, are used to extract the oil from the seed or that cake that they make. And then it goes to a degumming stage where water and phosphoric acid and remove the phospholipids. So these are the nourishing parts of the oils are actually removed with phosphoric acid, which is really toxic and can burn a hole in your hand if you touch it. Okay, then it goes to a refining stage where the oil is mixed with sodium hydroxide. Okay, this is not good. This is caustic soda. It's the active ingredient in Drano. Okay, and it's mixed with sodium carbonate. Then it goes to a bleaching stage where filtered acid-treated activated clays are used to remove any colors and aromas, and then a deodorizing stage, again using heat that will destroy more and more nutrients. Every time they heat an oil, the nutrients are destroyed. And then a final preservation stage where they use a whole host of synthetic antioxidants, of which you need a science degree and a librarian's vocabulary to learn how to pronounce, or a scientist's vocabulary to learn how to pronounce. Things like butylated hydroxytoluene, butylated hydroxyacenol, propylgalate, terabithaquinone, butylthioquinone, sorry, messed it up, citric acid, and methacillocone. Okay, this is just in the process of it. And if anyone knows about making soap from oils, what they did in the olden days when they made soap from oils is they would actually be able to process it to the point where they could make soap. So these oils are processed so much they have to add a defoamer to it because they don't want your oil foaming up on you. Crazy, huh? So basically you're ending up with an oil. It is the white sugar version of cane. You're ending up with that oil. And what that does is it enables the oil to stay on the shelf stable for much longer than, say, a natural cold pressed or expeller expressed oil. So when you're buying oils and you want to find a good one, the first thing to do is to know that air and light oxidize oil. So you want to find oil that's kept in a dark bottle or something that excludes air and light. So if you paying lots for a good oil and it's in a glass bottle, it usually means that the people who are actually producing it don't really understand how oils are kept. Now, if you understand in certain cultures where they had olive oil, how it was actually made years ago was simply a matter of taking the oils and crushing them. And then what they learned through sophistication and learning how to press the oils is that the pulp that was left over after grinding it in a stone, it could actually yield more oil than the first kind of pressing of it. The free-flowing oil, which in Italian is called Prima Lucio, it's like the Rolls Royce of olive oil. And if you've ever tasted freshly pressed olives from olives that are really well taken care of, it is like this amazing revelatory experience in your palate. It's absolutely delicious. I'm just remembering the first time I had it was very exciting. I'd seen oils like this on the tables in restaurants for years, and I'd dip my oil and I was like, I don't get it. Like, what's this thing with oil on the table? And then I was invited as a guest to the Turley Vineyards. They had a private dinner, and I just got an invite, stroke of luck. And they had just pressed olives from 5 of their heirloom trees that had been left to almost go wild for like decades. And they took 5 of the olives from 5 trees and they pressed it, and they ended up with, I think, something like 5 liters of oil. And they put some on the table, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, that's great, you have your own olive oil, it's really impressive. And I dipped my bread into it and I tasted it, and I was just like, the heavens parted. In a palate sense, in a culinary sense, it literally was an aha moment. It was so delicious, and it was awakening. It just felt wonderful and tasted wonderful. And I thought, this is why people dip their bread in it. We've just been using crappy oils, so it wasn't that exciting. But when you get a great oil, it is something beautiful. So for shopping for olive oils, there's many ways to look out for it. It's rare, I have to tell you, it's rare to find a really good quality oil that is organic. So you want organic, because when you spray chemicals onto the olives, you can't just take the chemicals off. And with fat residues, you definitely can't extract the chemicals once it's been pressed. So organic, you want cold pressing, but nowadays they use a centrifugal expellers that basically take the pulp and whiz it around, and then the oil actually comes out of it. So technically it's not first cold pressing, but you definitely want the first cold press, because what they did when they found out that they could get oil out of the pulp at different times, when they started to put it in between mats, that basically just created a little bit of pressure on the oil, not too much, so it didn't create any friction and denature the oil. You had your first cold pressed olive oil. That's why it was so great. They then discovered if they took heavier mats, porous mats, and they put the pulp in between it in layers, the actual weight of the mats would create a little bit of friction, and it would release more oils from the pulp. And that was the second cold pressing of olives. And then what they discovered is if they took heat to that leftover pulp, they could extract more oil from the olives. Then it was no longer first cold pressed or second cold pressed. It was now virgin or extra virgin, meaning the lucidity was less than 1%, but it was no longer cold pressing because they'd used the heat. And then they discovered, as I've discussed, they went through all these stages of using equipment, science, technology to extract more and more oil from the pulp and have less and less nutrients left in the oil. So when you're wanting it to get a good oil, now there are places where you can go that they just sell oils. And you can get it in a dark bottle, excludes the air. You want something that has lots of flavor and aroma. And you can see, one of the things I'm a big fan of is finding bottles where you can actually see the sediment at the bottle, because it hasn't gone through elaborate filtration and processing. You also want to watch out. Some of the olive oils will have it in a bottle and it'll be a bright green, and people think, oh, I'm getting a good olive oil because there's lots of color in it. Sometimes what they'll do when they're selling oil cheaply and wanting to make you think that you're getting a good oil is they will actually crush the leaves into the actual oil to give it that color. And there's just so many kind of fiddly things that actually happen in the olive oil industry. You want to try and find someone who's reputable. And then once you get your oil and you trust it and you know it tastes good and it meets all the criteria, you don't want to cook it at high heats. Okay, this is able to withstand high heat cooking without kind of decomposing and breaking down, because there's no goodness in it. Whereas this oil is super fragile and sensitive, and if you start to cook at high heats, it can actually become toxic. So I use my olive oil for raw purposes. I don't normally cook with it anymore. And if I am going to cook, I tend to use something like a coconut oil and more things that aren't actually going to get upset by the high heats. So once you get your beautiful oils, remember they are best for raw things, so your salads, drizzles over things. They're going to have beautiful flavor, aroma compounds. They're going to look great in your food, add a silkiness to it. And the other thing that happens with plant-based fats is they're so easily assimilated and digested by the body, and they help you assimilate the fat-soluble nutrients in the vegetables that you're putting them on. So they not only look good, taste good, and feel good, they make your body sing.